The Chernobyl Disaster, 1986. The full story. The Chernobyl disaster remains a pivotal event in nuclear power history, its aftermath shaping the environmental, political, and technological landscape for decades. On April 26, 1986, Reactor No. 4 at the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant in Ukraine erupted in catastrophic explosions. The incident sent shockwaves throughout the Soviet Union and beyond, releasing radioactive materials that transformed the lives of hundreds of thousands and left an eerie legacy that endures today. This is not just a chronicle of a disaster, but a story of negligence, heroism, and profound lessons. Nestled roughly 16 kilometers from the Belarus border, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant once symbolized Soviet technological ambition. Adjacent to it was Pripyat, a thriving modern city of 49,000 people. Beneath the surface of this apparent progress, however, lay hidden dangers. The plant was powered by RBMK-1000 reactors, a Soviet innovation designed more for efficiency than safety. These reactors, with their instability during low-power operation and lack of robust containment structures, were ticking time bombs. Pripyat bustled optimistically as the residents worked and lived in what they believed was a thriving technopolis. Little did they know, danger loomed just beyond the horizon. The disaster's roots lie in a routine test gone terrifyingly awry. On the night of April 25, 1986, operators lowered the power in Reactor No. 4 to assess its ability to cool itself in a simulated blackout. But the test was plagued with human errors. The reactor's power dipped to dangerously low levels, and instead of halting the experiment, operators disabled critical safety systems, including the emergency shutdown. This stark disregard for protocols set the stage for the following harrowing sequence. The air that night was thick with uncertainty and perhaps unease, but no one could have foreseen the catastrophe about to unfold. In a matter of seconds, a series of fatal decisions collided with Reactor No. 4's inherent design flaws. At 1:23 a.m., a sudden power surge ignited an uncontrollable chain reaction, causing a buildup of steam and pressure. The reactor essentially tore itself apart. The 1,000-ton steel and concrete lid was hurled skyward with horrifying force, and radioactive material spewed into the night. Moments later, a second explosion, likely caused by hydrogen gas, obliterated what remained of the reactor shell. Glowing fires illuminated the night sky as toxic smoke began its deadly ascent. Both explosions lit up not just Pripyat's skyline, but a grim chapter in global history. In the minutes following the explosion, chaos erupted. Bright flames flickered, yet for the firefighters and plant workers battling the blaze, the air carried an invisible menace: radiation. These first responders, ignorant of their exposure, fought courageously against fire and ruin, sacrificing their lives to protect others. Many succumbed within days or weeks, victims of the radiation poisoning their bravery incurred. The plume of radioactive isotopes, including iodine-131 and cesium-137, silently spread over Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia, ultimately reaching Europe. By dawn, the extent of the devastation was becoming painfully obvious to those at the plant, yet most of the world remained entirely unaware. In Pripyat, Saturday dawned like any other day. Children played in parks, workers went about their routines. But by evening, whispers of an incident began circulating. Still, there were no official announcements. Unknowingly, residents went about their lives amidst steadily climbing radiation levels. Finally, 36 hours after the explosion, an evacuation was ordered. Families boarded buses believing they would return in a few days, leaving behind their homes, belongings, and lives. They were never to return. Pripyat became a ghost town overnight, a chilling monument to the Soviet Union's misplaced priorities and delayed response. The Soviet Union scrambled to contain not just the physical fallout, but also public knowledge of the disaster. Official reports heavily downplayed the severity of the crisis. It wasn't until April 28th, when Swedish scientists detected rising radiation levels, that the world learned something had gone terribly wrong in Ukraine. This slow acknowledgement exposed deeper truths about Soviet governance, secrecy, bureaucracy, and inertia. The international response was immediate outrage. Critics lambasted the USSR for its lack of transparency, while nations amplified discussions on nuclear safety policies. The Chernobyl disaster became an undeniable turning point in Cold War-era global awareness. As the fires smoldered and radioactive particles settled into the soil and atmosphere, an immense effort to mitigate the damage was launched. Enter the liquidators, a veritable army of 600,000 workers drawn from across the Soviet Union. Engineers, soldiers, firefighters, and civilians toiled under life-threatening conditions, many without adequate protective gear or comprehension of the risks. Their tasks were Herculean: extinguish the fires, clear radioactive debris, and build a massive concrete sarcophagus to encase the smoldering ruins of Reactor No. 4. Although their efforts prevented greater devastation, the cost was staggering. Thousands of liquidators suffered long-term health effects. Their sacrifice has since been recognized as valorous in the face of unimaginable peril. The human toll of Chernobyl is both measurable and immeasurable. Of the 134 individuals who suffered acute radiation syndrome, ARS, 28 died within months. Yet the long-term effects unfolded slowly. Thyroid cancer rates soared, especially among children exposed to iodine-131. Psychological trauma and the pain of displacement haunted the evacuees. The invisible enemy had changed lives forever. Environmentally, the region became a radioactive wasteland. Some 30 kilometers around the plant was declared the exclusion zone, a barren, lifeless area off-limits to humans. Remarkably, in the absence of human presence, certain wildlife species began to thrive in this unnatural sanctuary, though genetic mutations remain an area of study. The ripples of the Chernobyl disaster reached far beyond the exclusion zone. Economically, it drained the Soviet Union, which spent billions of rubles on containment, relocation, and compensation. This financial strain exacerbated existing weaknesses in the Soviet system, contributing to its eventual collapse. Politically, it exposed systemic failures in governance and safety, shaking confidence in the Soviet regime. On a global scale, nuclear policy underwent massive reform. International organizations introduced stricter safety regulations, and nations reconsidered their nuclear energy programs altogether. Chernobyl forged a universal commitment to transparency, accountability, and caution in harnessing nuclear power. Over the decades, the original sarcophagus began to deteriorate, threatening a renewed environmental hazard. In 2016, a monumental achievement rose from the ashes: the new safe confinement. This state-of-the-art steel dome now encases Reactor No. 4, designed to contain its deadly remnants for at least 100 years. A symbol of technological progress, it also serves as a grim reminder of the price of past mistakes. Walking through the silent streets of Pripyat today is a surreal experience. Rusting playgrounds, collapsing buildings, and personal items scattered as though their owners simply stepped out for a moment tell the story of abrupt and devastating displacement. The town is frozen in time, a macabre time capsule of Soviet life. Researchers and adventurous tourists visit the exclusion zone, captivated by its eerie beauty and historical gravitas. But radiation still lurks in the shadows, reminding visitors of the ever-present danger. Chernobyl's legacy far outstrips its physical and environmental consequences. It reshaped humanity's relationship with nuclear technology, cautioning against overconfidence and carelessness. The disaster's tales of individual heroism and human resilience have inspired books, documentaries, and even the critically acclaimed HBO series Chernobyl. These narratives rekindle awareness of the team's sacrifices and failures, ensuring the lessons of 1986 are not forgotten. Above all, Chernobyl reveals a stark truth. With great power comes great responsibility. It is a chilling testament to the potential for human error and systemic flaws to wreak havoc on unprecedented scales. The Chernobyl disaster stands as one of history's most sobering cautionary tales. It was a tragic convergence of design flaws, human error, and systemic negligence. The devastation it caused, loss of lives, environmental ruin, and global alarm will remain etched in collective memory. Yet out of this calamity came hard-won lessons about safety, resilience, and accountability. For history enthusiasts, Chernobyl's story is more than a catalogue of mistakes. It's an ongoing reflection on humanity's ability to endure and adapt. Encased in steel and memory, the legacy of Reactor No. 4 reminds us that the choices we make today could echo across centuries.